And to know that these people are stepping up.
Ramadi was once said by a general, "We will never take over the Al Anbar province."
Yeah.
And within a year, we got it.
Yeah, when that surge got pushed through, a lot of the surge went to the Anbar, and it really cleaned it up.
How does that make you feel to think that you're going to go down in history being a part of that surge?
It's awesome.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It really is.
It's no better feeling than knowing that the job that we did over there really helped people, and it actually made a difference, and it really cleaned up the streets literally for the people there. So it's awesome. It's a great feeling.
The 478th has returned now twice from Iraq with 0 KIAs.
Yes. So
congratulations, gentlemen.
Yes, that's awesome.
That is a huge accomplishment. So when you think about your future, where do you see yourselves possibly having to go back to Iraq?
I do.
Being a reservist?
I do.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about that?
If it's time to go, it's time to go.
Yeah. If the Army says you're going, you're going. It's not really feeling that you want to, or if you don't. I mean, I would love to serve the country again. So if I was called up again, I'd, do it proud.
Yeah, that's wonderful. When I wanted to ask you a couple minutes ago when we were talking about the different things that are actually happening in the country, I meant to touch on this quickly, was when you did your holidays over there. I guess, I always think about it, especially, here in the United States, because holidays are so important. I mean, when we think about Thanksgiving, we think about Christmas. How was that?
I was home for Christmas, so I didn't get to experience that was Ramadi still. I didn't get to experience the Ramadi Christmas, so
and
he's
Alex?
better off.
Yeah, that was I don't know. We had a tree in our room that was about this big that my mom sent us, and she sent us stockings and everything, and the whole platoon went. Usually for big holidays, the whole platoon would go and eat in the chow hall, and we just ate in the chow hall and tried to make the best of it. So, and New Year's we actually were. We were trying to get back to the barracks before New Year's, but we were pulling in the gate at midnight for New Year's, and everyone started shooting off flares and everything as a kind of a little celebration, I guess. So you just do what you do to stay, concentrated over there and to have a good time. You're with, if I couldn't be with my family, I'm, with my platoon, a bunch of great guys. So if I can't be with my family, it's not bad being with them throughout the holidays. So.
Well, when you were anticipating coming home, what was in your mind, the first thing that you wanted to do as soon as you had boots on the ground here?
In the States?
Yes.
Get out of Indiana, because that's where we were. We knew we'd have to be there for 5 days to demobilize. So first thought through my mind was, get out of Indiana, get out of Indiana, get out of Indiana. And then once we came home, and I'm assuming we'll talk about the homecoming later on. Will. Okay. First thing I wanted to do was, 1, see my girls, and then 2, get to a Reds game.
Yep.
A Reds game.
Yeah.
I wanted to be back at the ballpark.
It's the same thing?
Bengals more for me.
Yeah.
Can't wait to get to a Bengals game. But the first day back, just sleeping in my own bed, biggest thoughts in my mind were just being home. Not being over there, not wearing, 40, 50, 60 pounds of gear every time we roll out, just, being back here. The biggest thing, though, was a steak from El Coyote. That was the biggest thing that stuck out in my mind coming home, was getting a steak from El Coyote.
Wow, got a little plug for a local restaurant here. I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that.
Yes. It's good food.
It is.
Well, that's neat. Well, we can talk a little bit about that wonderful homecoming.
Yes.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Wow. I cried. I'm going to go ahead and say that now, get it out of the way. When we left Camp Atterbury in Indiana, it took us about a half an hour to get to the main highway that we took home. Once we got onto the ramp onto the highway, the Freedom Riders were there waiting for us.
I'm very familiar with them.
So as we pulled onto the highway, one would take off in front, and then one would fall behind, and then another one would go in front, and then one behind, and then finally they all just came up around all the buses and they led the way home. Once we crossed the bridge from Indiana into Kentucky onto 275, at every U-turn area in between the 4-lane highways, there was a Fort Thomas police officer in either a police vehicle, whatever he had, SUV, another bike maybe, whatever. Once we got to that point, they would come out and in front of us, behind us, in front of us, behind us, in front of us, behind us, and then they were with us the whole ride in. Once you got onto 471 and got off at the Fort Thomas exit, the entire road was lined with yellow ribbons, which my mom and a friend of mine placed there. So the buses followed the path all the way up to the top of the hill into the city of Fort Thomas. Once we got to the top of the hill, kids everywhere.
Yeah.
Mind you, school is still in session. So obviously these schools were released to let these kids come out into the city of Fort Thomas. I've never seen so many kids in my life. Lining the streets, holding signs, welcome home. People, just adults, you know, like you and me, standing there crying as we're coming in, waving at us. We're rolling through. I'm crying like a girl because I can't wait to see my kids. As we come around the corner closer to the base, we see 2 fire trucks.
Yeah.
And both ladders were up at pointing at each other, triangle shape. And draped from the middle of it was the biggest flag I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. It was the coolest sight I've seen in a long time.
All
so
the firefighters and police were standing there
all standing there saluting
as we
rolled by.
Alex, did you have any idea that this was going to happen?
We knew there was a big homecoming, but I mean, just the local businesses were outside. I mean, you know, as soon as we pulled off the exit, just the local business people were outside on their signs. You know, usually have a daily special. It would say "Welcome home, 478th." You know, good job, 478th. And it just, when we pulled into Fort Thomas, it was crazy. Everyone on the bus was just so emotional. It was such a high, you know, it was unbelievable.
Well, I'm reminded because I remember there's a little story that we didn't get to. Chris, I wanted you to tell me about your experience on that airplane.
Oh, okay. When I came back for leave, Christmas time, I was on a plane in Atlanta. We took off, excuse me, I will start over. We left from Ireland and we landed in Atlanta. I was supposed to have about a 6-hour layover until my flight left for Cincinnati. Well, I luckily and fortunately had a really great mom who found that there was a seat available on a flight leaving earlier that day. Actually, I had about 10 minutes to get to my next flight. So I'm running through the terminal. I get to my flight, hand my ticket, and I walk onto the plane. I walk to my seat. I sit down. And this gentleman approaches me, and he looks at me and he says, where are you going, son? I said, oh, I'm going home to Cincinnati. I get to go see my babies. I'm coming home for leave, Christmas leave. I'm, home from Iraq. He says, well, you're in the wrong seat. And I, of course, I'm looking at my ticket thinking, okay. He goes, no, your seat's up front in the big leather one where they serve you drinks because I'm giving you my first class ticket.
Yeah, that is unbelievable, Chris. You know, when we talk about this homecoming, people just don't really understand what effect it has on our soldiers. Again, I mentioned my own family. I know it firsthand, and it makes me so proud to know that the patriotism in this country is alive and well, and that your homecoming was bigger than you ever imagined, and it was important.
Huge.
But we're just getting ready to wrap this up, and I just want you to know how much I appreciate you both coming and sharing your experiences. I could sit here and just ask questions all afternoon just because I know that, our community as a whole, they want to know what's happening with you all. And to hear these positive, wonderful stories, it really gives us a reason to continue to support our soldiers when they're away and to do everything we can to stir up the patriotism in this country. So thanks again for being here. It's been a great time.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Thanks again for joining us. I hope that you have had as much enjoyment as I have had and are enlightened by these gentlemen as their visit with us today. Thank you again.